The main theme of my project work has been around climate change, looking at the relationship between the sun and the sea and the implications for rising sea levels. As it's quite an extensive theme, I've tried to simplify my installations by modelling them on the kind of instruments used in weather stations. And that's a tidal clock, a sunshine recorder and an anemometer. At the moment I'm visualising these installations on the main pier, but this will depend on group agreement and obtaining permission. The working title for my installations is Undercurrents, which relates both to the currents found beneath the surface of the sea and also to the way in which climate change is treated as an underlying problem in world affairs, rather than as a problem that needs urgent action. First of all, the tidal clock. This developed from the idea that I wanted to use the sea to activate an installation. Climate change and rising sea levels are a slow process, so I thought that I could compress time by using the rising tide to represent rising sea levels over perhaps hundreds of years. The hand is attached to a pulley behind the clock face, and a line goes over the pulley extending down into the sea with a float on one end and a counterbalance weight on the other. As the tide rises, the float will rise and the line will turn the pulley, which will move the hand. My first attempt was with just the clock face and the hand, but without the activating mechanism for the hand. The clock face was made up from black and white photographs of the sea for a background, and with photographs of the sun replacing the numbers around the dial, with the sun progressively increasing in size as the hand moves around the dial. In this way the sun can be seen as a thermometer, representing rising temperatures. The intention is to show that the sun and the sea have a reciprocal relationship, where the pictures of the sun on the clock face represent rising temperatures and the clock hand shows a corresponding level of the sea. I'm happy with the idea and how the mechanism would work, but I wasn't so sure about the clock face, especially after Tara Londi mistook it for the night sky with stars. I then came across some work by Wu Chi-sung, a Chinese artist who uses cyanotype to compose large seascapes. I tried his method by coating some Luan paper with cyanotype solution, drying it and screwing it up, and then exposing it to UV light, which is sunlight, while it was still sort of screwed up. And that's what creates this effect. And I rather like the idea that you can use sunshine to create an image of the sea. I then used bleach on the cyanotype to represent the sun around the dial. This is the setup for the sunshine recorder, and it's a further development of the sunburn technique that I used earlier on the course, based on the work of Chris McCaw. I wanted to combine the sun and the sea in a direct way by focusing the sun through seawater to illustrate the impact of the combination. I tried using lenses filled with seawater without success, but then I came across a newspaper article describing how a fishbowl on a windowsill had focused the sun onto a table, which then caught fire and caused extensive damage to the house. I set up a water-filled fishbowl outside and with a photograph at the focus distance from the bowl, and left it for 2 hours. Even the weak winter sunshine created a nice burn track across the photograph. Now we come to the third installation, which is where I'm intending to use the pinhole camera images. Although these images didn't come out as I expected, they're still a compressed record of the weather on Sherkin over 1 year, and look rather like miniature worlds. However, I've been struggling with how to activate them rather than just displaying them. The first idea was to hang them from a gallows. Unfortunately, this caused some dismay amongst the people who saw it. They found the gallows disturbing and were unable to see past the gallows to the artwork. Jessie also suggested that it lacked subtlety. I agreed with all of the comments, so I scrapped the idea. My second idea was to display them on a transparent medium along the rails of the pier, angled so that people coming in on the ferry would see them against the sky and the people on the pier would see them against the sea. I tried printing the images on transparent film, but against the light they looked washed out. I found that printing them on paper improved the image against the light, but this would mean printing a second set of images to be viewed from the pier. I then tried simple framing of the images. That's to be viewed from the ferry, and that's to be viewed from the pier. But this was going back to the old idea of displaying the photographs, and I didn't want to do that. I then thought about an anemometer, an instrument with 3 or 4 arms ending in a cup-shaped disc which revolves with the wind. This is the model, but although there's a little bit of wind, because the discs aren't cup-shaped, it doesn't revolve in the wind, it just trembles a bit. I was thinking to get it to revolve, I might be able to add cups to the arms, but I think that would take away from the images. I've since been thinking that I could extend an inner shaft down into the water with cups or vanes on the end, so that the images would revolve through the movement of the sea. The intention with this installation is to display compressed weather imagery in a way which suggests movement and change driven by local weather conditions, but in a global climatic context. In other words, what we're seeing in local weather is a result of a worldwide climate change. This is still very much a work in progress. Again, I don't think the model is as impressive as a full-size installation would be. Using installations based on weather station instruments seems to be a good way of pulling this project together while still being under the umbrella of climate change. The tidal gauge should work well, no matter what the weather conditions are like, but the diameter of the pulley needs to be calibrated to the tidal range at the time of installation. This can make it time specific as well as site specific. The sunshine recorder is of course sun dependent, and some pre-recorded burn tracks can be displayed beside it. I originally thought it would be best to be positioned at eye level or higher, but I'm now thinking it would be best on a plinth about 2 feet high and maybe 2 feet square. This would improve health and safety concerns and also improve the sight line for viewing the process. The device modelled on the anemometer still needs some experimental work to be done and may well be further modified. I think the main pier as a site for the installation would be my ideal choice. The dock pier could be an alternative, but the water drains out completely at low tide. The only other place could be the rock steps at Horseshoe Harbour, but the installation would be difficult and viewing might be hazardous. And as I said earlier, the title Undercurrents is a working title and may be changed in the future. Thank you very much.